Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Coaching Call podcast. On this podcast, we'll cover various types of coaching by trainers in sports, martial arts, fitness, and business. We'll discuss each coach's methods to getting the most out of their respective athletes or clients and how they attempt to change the platform in which they coach. Join us on a fun adventure as we discuss unique coaching styles. Coaching is a universal part of how we get others to get something done. Join your host, Rafael, and his guests on this unique journey in coaching.
Hi, I'm Sifu Rafael, and this is the Coaching Call podcast. If you enjoy this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. This episode was made possible by listeners like you. Matt, thank you so much for joining me on Coaching Call. How are you this morning?
My pleasure. Thank you. I'm doing well. Off to a great start this morning. So I'm glad to be with you.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Listen, I'm also going to let people know that you've written this incredible book that I'm enjoying very much. And we can touch upon that as we go along in this process. But for me, it's always getting to know the person who's in front of me. And it starts with childhood. Tell me about where were you born and who would you say influenced you before you were, say, 14, 15?
Well, I was born in Atlanta, Georgia, here in the U.S., and lived there until about third grade. My dad worked for an oil company that was purchased by another oil company, and they said, well, you can move to California or you can go without a job. And he said, well, I guess we're going to California. So I did most of my growing up just north of the Bay Area in Northern California. And graduated from high school out there and that sort of thing. So all my family is down in the southeast of the U.S., Tennessee and Georgia. I would say my parents, my father in particular, had a profound impact on my upbringing. As you might imagine, I think that's kind of a bit of a classic story. Right. I also had a retired minister, that invested in me a lot as a teenager, got me into volunteer work that has kind of stuck with me my whole life. And I'm very thankful for him kind of creating that passion for me. And so I would also offer him up as an early impression on me.
That's awesome. Wow. Volunteer work. And that's so important and so needed, and yet people still don't do it, right?
Sure.
Yeah. I'm even talking about celebrities who don't do it. They're the ones that need to do it the most.
I would guess so, yes.
The influence carries so much.
Mm-hmm.
So your dad influenced you, and your dad made a wise choice to move with the company.
Well, and it meant, he was not a college graduate. He came from very humble beginnings and was able to really kind of excel once he moved. He found kind of a pocket where people appreciated him. He did a lot of great work, a number of promotions, and really had a lot of career success that he wasn't even necessarily, expecting. He was a very quiet, reserved kind of guy, and boy, he loved his family. And I am not quiet and reserved, but I think I learned how to love through him. I learned how to be a good husband and a good father. And while we have very different personalities, he's since passed. We have very different personalities. I take a lot of character from him, from his, kind of silent leadership. The way he went about how he interacted with his family has had a huge impression on me.
Nice. You said something pretty profound. Silent leadership.
Yeah.
Wow. I get what that means, but would you mind explaining what that means to the audience in case they're wondering, what is silent leadership? Because to me, that's true leadership.
Yeah. Well, and admittedly, I haven't always been the best at that myself, so I can fall on the sword there. To me, I think probably people have different definitions of it, but to me, and especially through the way my dad modeled it, it is behaviorally acting out the way you want other people to interact with you, and so showing up, being present. Going through the day-to-day tasks or activities in a way that honors you, honors your family, and modeling the behavior that you want to see. That's what it meant to me, at least as I observed it in my father. Oftentimes, when I'm at my best in my leadership or in my coaching business, it is me showing up behaviorally the way I would like to be seen and the way I would like to interact with others.
Exactly what I was going to talk about when we thought about silent leadership. It's your actions speak louder than your words, I say, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then you talked about a minister who helped or got involved and sought you out and said, this is a young person that I need to be there for, to
Mm-hmm.
to help guide them. What was some of the biggest takeaways besides the fact of being a volunteer, teaching you that concept? What was some of the biggest takeaways you would say you earned during that time?
Yeah, I think arguably that's the biggest. He used to joke. He was an older gentleman. He's long since passed. As I mentioned, he was a retired minister when he and I spent time together. But he used to joke that back in the day, in the early '80s. He was huge into Habitat for Humanity. That was one of the causes that he really, wanted to invest in. And as you and your audience might know, former President Jimmy Carter was a big Habitat for Humanity person. And this minister that was my mentor was actually a foreman on a work site where Jimmy Carter was present. And so he used to always proudly say that he was Jimmy Carter's boss for a weekend. And so, modeling that volunteerism was big. I think he also taught me how to reflect deeply on not just my stance on faith and religion and the church, but also reflect on what kind of leader I wanted to be. So he and I both served on some committees within our church organization, but outside of our local church. And so we would have long drives to these committee meetings or these conferences. And he would say a lot about, you saw how that person showed up in that meeting. I think that's a great example of leadership, or I think that's a great example of, I don't think we used the term emotional intelligence back then. I don't know how he would have identified it, but how to show up well with other people, and so he was really good at pointing those things out and then pontificating on these long drives. He was so funny. I haven't talked about him in years. It's interesting that you're bringing this up, but he would get so passionate about what he was talking about, what he wanted to share with me. And I think that was part of the reciprocal benefit, is that I would listen intently to him going on. But he gets so wrapped up in it that we'd be driving down the freeway at like 36 miles per hour because he would get so wrapped up in his story, and people would be honking and swerving around us and all that kind of stuff. And he was oblivious to it all because he was so into his stories. That's funny. I haven't shared that memory in quite some time. So I appreciate you allowing that space.
Absolutely. It's interesting when we have people that impact our lives and they're not at top of mind, but they still influenced how we are today, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's good to every so often recall them. And that's why I like asking these questions. And when you said 36 miles an hour, I had a friend of mine that you made me think of. His dad used to drive 40 miles an hour or sometimes 35, and he'd be pulled over and given a ticket because he was going too slow, and it became a danger in the highway because everybody's going 55, so they would, come up on him. And it was he goes, my dad never learned. And I said, well, there you go. Maybe you shouldn't drive on the highway. But interesting in the fact that he got so involved in the conversation that he was present with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this morning I had a show with Dr. Tammy DeMerza, and we do a show every so often on a Wednesday morning, and it's called the Oracle and the Master. And we were talking about being silent and in the movies, and understanding that the value of listening is such an incredible skill, and you learned that early on.
Mm-hmm.
What age were you when you encountered this gentleman?
I met him. I probably was 11 or 12 when I first met him. And then, did all this work with him and had all these experiences with him through my high school career until I graduated at 18.
Mm-hmm.
So, the majority of my teenage years, the majority of my time in California, in fact. And it's interesting. He got me working at a local food pantry that was run out of a church, not our church, a different church.
Mm-hmm.
And I go there every Wednesday and work for a couple of hours, helping distribute, canned food and that sort of thing. And I mean, it was every Wednesday. And my best friend at the time started coming with me. And I remember proudly that we brought over 25 friends over the course of, 3 or 4 years to work with us at that. My senior year, we raised money for that food pantry throughout my high school. Went to a very large high school, and we raised a couple $1,000s, which was a lot back in 1999 or no 1995. That would have been 94, 95. And so we became integral to that food pantry, and he was the one that introduced me to it. And so then when I left for college, I immediately tried to find something to kind of fill that gap, and that kind of create this lifelong pursuit of helping out, just chipping in where I can.
Right. So let me ask you, you bring up a great point that you left a place because you went away, but then you start looking for another place so that you can continue to help out. How is it? Is it an easy aspect for somebody to say, hey, I want to go volunteer at a food pantry or something of that nature? Is it easy for somebody to find, or is it hard?
That's a really good question. And I don't know that I could speak educatedly to that because it's always been easy for me. I do think there's some wisdom in if somebody is wanting to do that, combining it perhaps with something that they already like to do or are passionate about. So, for example, I work at a nonprofit here in Indianapolis now, volunteer there a couple of times a week. In fact, I'll be going there this afternoon. And one of my duties there is cooking. It's a food redistribution nonprofit, among other things. And they take salvage food and they repurpose it for other nonprofits. And so I cook, and I really enjoy cooking. And so this is a wonderful outlet for me while I'm giving back. And I think there's a lot of charities that attempt to match volunteers with things that they are inclined to do. Right, in some way, shape, or form. Sometimes you just have to show up and get the job done for certain things. But other times, I think people can find things that they enjoy to do, and it makes volunteering even more valuable for them. And so I think finding that match might be a difficult part, right? Finding the right place, the right culture, the right task to be doing when you're volunteering. So that might take some trial and error. I'm going to try this or try that and see how it fits. But yeah, it's always been, I guess, relatively easy for me. I think, this minister's example probably created that in me, right? Like I always knew I had a passion for like food redistribution in particular, but also, helping people that are experiencing homelessness has been a big part of my background too. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful that that's part of my story, and that, I hope I can help just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you don't mind, I'm going to take you back to that first experience of you volunteering. Do you recall that day? What was it like? What were you doing? What was the objective that day?
Yeah, boy, you're really stretching my memory because I'm an old man now. This was a
No, you're
long
not.
time. uh, I do remember, and I think I remember more recent examples of something similar. Is I think it's really intimidating to walk into a new place, particularly to volunteer. Oftentimes, you're in an element that you're unfamiliar with. It's definitely not a place that you stepped in before, most likely, and you don't know who you're going to meet or what that interaction is going to be like. I think there's some sensitivity. I had some sensitivity as a teenager that, we weren't rich, but we grew up with, the things that we needed in a nice house and all that sort of thing because of my dad's success. And I was nervous about, like, was there a certain way I was supposed to behave or act or things that I was supposed to say in that environment? I remember being very self-conscious about making people feel comfortable. Right. Like anything that I could do, I assumed that there was a bit of, and this is, kind of weird for me to say. I didn't, I didn't plan on saying any of this, but, I sensed that there might be some embarrassment, for the people that were coming to take the food, or some level of uncomfortability with it. And I'm sure there is, to varying degrees, with folks that have to pursue those kinds of services. But what I found when I got there, I remember this distinctly, is that for the most part, people were just grateful that they had something to eat for the next couple of days. They had something to feed their children, and they weren't embarrassed. They weren't proud. They were just there, right? Like they were just living life the best they could, and so it was actually quite interactive, and you got to know people over a period of time. You'd see some people, once a month. We did it every week, but sometimes they just come once a month. But you got to know people. You could ask about their kids. Even as a teenager, I remember having some really good conversations with folks that I might not have otherwise met. And so I do remember that. I can't tell you like the weather from that day or what I was wearing or anything like that, but I do remember the unease.
The reason I'm approaching and continually talking about that is because today's topic, or the title of today's show, is Leadership Made Simple by Cutting Through Complexity. Mm-hmm. And it just goes to show the type of leader that you are, right? Because you're caring for other people. And I think that's true leadership. Because to me, a leader who is only in it for themselves is not a real leader. Mm-hmm. Right? So I see, and I thank you for sharing your story, right? Because I think that one of the most important things that people have to understand, that a true leader is worried about the people that they're leading. How would they lead? How would they feel? What is their impact? And you talk just about how you were talking to them, and people you would never have met normally, because you're probably meeting them at their downtime, right? Mm-hmm. At a downtime in their life, somewhere where maybe they do feel ashamed, maybe they're embarrassed, maybe they think I'm not worthy, and then you have this kindness about you that you just wanted to talk to, have a conversation, that they were blessed by you, right? Mm-hmm. So God has a mysterious way of putting us in places, and with that in mind, did your family always go to church? As a child, did you go to church? Were you in a crib, and your parents took you out of the crib and took you to church? Tell us about that.
Yes, is the short answer. I grew up mostly in the United Methodist Church, and when we got to California, there were a lot less options than there were in the South, and so we actually broke out. We were part of about 20 families that broke out on their own and created our own church under the United Methodist, flag, so to speak, and that. Kind of church going and faith being a really important part of my life thankfully has continued to this day. My wife of 25 years this summer grew up in the church. She coincidentally grew up in the United Methodist Church as well. And And so that's always been a part of our life. As a young couple, we had that classic drift away from that, going weekly and participating and being involved. And then when we started having kids, it was really about getting back to it and setting that example, and that's been always been a really important part of our life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. I love it. So talk to me about what was schooling like for you, like high school, and then leading out of that.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting for me being a kid from the South, from, a suburb of Atlanta, moving to Northern California. As you might imagine, like the school experience was just, completely different for me. It took some time to acclimate. I grew up once I got to California, I grew up in a very diverse area. And so my high school, we had 26 different ethnicities in my graduating class. We were maybe 25% Filipino from a population perspective. And so I got a really rich education in different cultures and ethnicities. And I think that probably shaped my ability to be adaptable in the work world as well, particularly as my roles became more global. I had that experience to build on. It was a pretty rough area that I grew up in too. And so violence was a part of our day to day in a way that I don't think I really understood at the time. It was just kind of normal. Fortunately, my family and I were able to, avoid any kind of, hardship, real hardship in that area. And I look back on it with some sort of distance, right? Like, was that really my upbringing? I graduated in the top 10 in my class out of 550 people, but I was lazy. I have to admit. So my high school experience was kind of just doing enough to get by and do well. And thankfully, I had some good friends around me that helped me rally at key points. And I have some regret isn't the right word. But I wish I would have been a different person in high school from a work ethic perspective, right? I just didn't have the work ethic that I gained while I was in college, and thankfully have been able to deploy most of my adult life. So. Yeah, that's a bit about my high school experience. I was eager to move on. I remember, I had the worst bout of senioritis as a senior in high school. I was ready to get the heck out of there, and grateful for the opportunity to come to Purdue University in Indiana. So Purdue is what brought me to Indiana. Go Boilers! And I was thankful for the change of pace. Meeting new people, being subjected to new environments, and trying new things. And so, I was not sad to leave. My parents moved back to the Southeast shortly thereafter, after my sister graduated from high school. And so I don't really have any roots out there anymore. But yeah, I probably gave you a little bit more than what you were asking for there, but kind of stream of consciousness.
Yeah. So, because this is Coaching Call, right? And thank you for being so candid and sharing with us. Because for me, the way I love doing this show is to get people to know who you are, right? So then, therefore, they can say, "Wow, I want to follow those footsteps," or "I actually want to hire Matt. I want to work with Matt. I want to pick his brain a little bit," right? Because I believe in coaching so strongly that's why I have this show. Because I believe that a coach is going to help us, the right coach, obviously, because there's a lot of bad coaches out there, as we all know. The right coach is going to help expand our horizons. And this is why I love doing the show and love meeting people like yourself. And here's what a good friend of mine, who's also a coach, too many bosses out there and not nearly enough true leaders. And so, yes, thank you, brother. And it's so true. So when we talk about bosses, talk to us about your first boss. What job did you first get when you started working?
Yeah. Well, I worked for a bank while I was still at Purdue, and actually, somewhat coincidentally, have recently reconnected with my boss from that role.
Right.
25 years later, I'm really dating myself here now, but she was thrown into a role that was probably a little bit over her head,
Mm.
and she would, I think, readily admit that. And she was an excellent person. She was an excellent human being, and she ended up being an excellent boss too. She was really good at telling me some tough truths, and I really appreciated that about her. I think she was also stretched beyond stretched, and so that factored into her effectiveness overall. Um, it's probably appropriate. The next two bosses were in very strong contrast to each other. So after I graduated from Purdue, I actually went to work in banking full time, and ended up being going through a management training program at a large kind of regional bank. And my boss there was just the ultimate cheerleader, the ultimate people developer. He really invested time and energy and effort into helping us get better. He had endless amounts of patience. He was known kind of statewide as the manager that would take the people that have messed up elsewhere. Fortunately, I wasn't one of those people, but he would take them in, take them under his wing. He had some great assistant managers that really fed into that program as well. And then I moved to a different branch after I graduated the program, and that branch manager was a mess.
Really.
They were irresponsible. They were inconsiderate. They really thought they were exceptional at leading people, and they were really poor. So if you'll allow me, I'll tell a brief funny story about that
Absolutely.
experience.
This is what makes it so interesting, because it's the stories that define how we live our lives, right? And sometimes we have to tell a story from an outsider point of view or an insider point of view. So please do share.
Sure. Yeah. So we were at this branch. The employees at the branch had most of them had all been there quite a long time. And by the time I got there, they were pretty sick to death of this leader who had been there for a couple of years at that point. And she was always coming up with, kind of strange ideas that, she would get a whim and she would act on it. So one Monday morning, we were having our regular staff meeting, and she brought all kinds of like tchotchkes, those things that you blow on and they make a noise and they pop out, and like clappers and pom poms and all kinds of stuff. And she said, today's meeting is going to be a celebration. We said, great, okay, yeah. And so she made a big deal out of it. And she said, and I'm going to use this occasion to launch an Employee of the Month program. And we were like, oh, okay. And, as a people leader, I was like, well, yeah, let's show appreciation for our folks. And, many of them were underpaid, and I thought it was a really good idea. And she said, so once a month, we're going to, select an employee of the month, and we're going to celebrate them, and we're going to take their picture, and we're going to put their framed picture up on this wall back behind everything. It was actually over my desk. But the customers couldn't see it. We could only see it, behind us. And so we were like, great, that sounds great. So a month passes, and we get together in our employee meeting, and she says, I would like to announce the Employee of the Month this month. It's me. and she said I was thinking about it, and I thought I've really chipped in a lot lately. I've kind of filled in for people being gone and that sort of thing, and so I felt like I was deserving of it. And we were like, just stunned. So she gets her picture, she frames it, she puts it up on the wall, and she never named another Employee of the Month ever.
Wow.
So talk about a fantastic example in so many ways of how not to lead people. She provided me a ton of information.
Oh yeah. How not to, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes those are the best. Those are the best coaches. I say it's how not to do something, right? Those are the people that have actually impacted me a lot. It's the people that do the wrong things. You go, oh, thank you for that lesson, because I know not to ever do that again. or do something similar to that. So interesting, because she started on a high note.
Well, yes, it could have been so good. It could have been a step in the right direction when she had aired so much in the past. But yeah, it was. That's my best story from that couple of years serving under that leader. But as you might imagine, I have dozens.
Oh, I'm sure. But you probably also have great stories of people who showed true leadership. If you're able to bring one for us, that would be incredible. And when you talk about great leadership, or leadership that needs some guidance, right? Because they don't all have EQ. And a similar story, I was in a corporate, and there was a guy who was my boss's boss. And he said something around where we were getting coffee. And he said something to me. And I was blown away because it was so detrimental. So I said to him, I was 22 at the time. And I was top of my game at that time. And I said to him, I said, how old are you? He said, I'm 36. I said, wow. I said, so you really haven't gone far in your life. And I said that because of what he said to me, because he was putting me down. And I had no idea why he did that. I said, by the time I'm your age, I'll definitely not be in your position.
Wow.
And I walked away. and probably, but here's the crazy thing, right? Several years later, I had left that company, and I saw him out in public. He actually came and shook my hand. And he was very, very kind to me. He was very nice, and we had a great conversation. And he brought up what he said to me again. And he goes, thank you for opening my eyes. Wow,
that's amazing.
He said, because what I said to you was so inappropriate, and the way you put me in my place, you didn't hurt my feelings. I mean, you hurt my feelings, but you didn't do anything wrong. Meanwhile, what I did was entirely wrong. And you just made me reflect on myself that I probably could have been higher if I treated people better. So I said, how are you doing now? He goes, I'm phenomenal. I said, I'm so happy for you. And we had a great conversation, but it was just that instant of him being such a not nice person that I had to say what he said. And yes, I was young. I probably shouldn't have said it, but I was, instead of me saying the wrong thing and just like going, ape on him, if you will, I just said, I'm just going to pull back, and I'm just going to say, I'm 22. How old are you? And you're only 2 rungs up above me. So it was interesting. But
that's great.
To sometimes impact somebody in a positive way, and I had no intention. I was 22. I was dumb and naive. But for me to impact somebody that later on came back and said something positive, and it helped him, I'll take it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's awesome.
So talk to us about somebody that, obviously the minister was somebody who was a great leader because he guided you in something that you still do today, a passion that you still have. I love the fact that you cook, and that your love of cooking is helping others in need. But it's not in just the need, but it gives them warmth and comfort. And I think that's where leadership really comes in, because we need to take those people who need that at the moment. Sometimes they don't even know they need it, right? But we're still sharing that with them. Do you have any stories of a great leader like the minister?
Yes. Fortunately, as you brought up, like working for good leaders, it occurs to me, and I don't know that I've actually done this math, but nobody's perfect. And also, every boss I've ever had, other than that one, every manager or director above me has been some form of a great leader. Which it struck me all of a sudden just in this moment. I don't know why I've never put that together. Like I said, they weren't perfect, none of them, and there were coachable moments, I think, for all of them. But in some way, shape, or form, they were a great leader, and I think that's amazing. I had one after I left the bank. I went to work for a print company. We sold like checks and deposit slips to small business owners. And so banks and CPAs were our partners, and we sold all kinds of what we call micro encoded. That's the name for the numbers at the bottom of your checks. And I had a boss there. Actually, I take that back. I had a boss there that was terrible too, but that was for a very short period of time. I had a boss there. His name's Mark. He is still around, and I'm glad to call him a friend. He showed me what compassionate leadership looked like. He was really good at emotional connection in a business context, right? It was never crossing a line of emotional boundaries or anything like that. But he really taught me what it's like to show up and listen, to help people by allowing them to talk through some of their concerns. Approaching conversations with a lack of judgment, especially initially, he modeled that extremely well. And I knew that he genuinely cared about us as a human being. And he had high standards. We were in a sales role that was mostly commission. And so it was all about like what you could put, what food you could put on the table, so to speak. And even in that kind of high pressure, cutthroat environment, he found a way to lead authentically that was all about compassion and investing into other people. And I think he was the first person to show me the empathetic side of leadership. In that way. And I'm proud to say that that's the type of leader that I grew into. But when I say grew into, I really do mean grew into. It took me some time because that was not my natural leaning. So I appreciate the kind words that you had about, me learning how to lead well from a place of empathy or compassion. I can't remember the word you used, but admittedly, that was a learned trait. That was not something that I initially had. I cared, but my standards were really high, and I didn't know how to meet people emotionally in a way that was productive and also honored them, right? My story is if you were a lot like me from a personality perspective, we worked great together. If you weren't like me from a personality perspective, maybe you were more introverted, maybe you had a slower pace that you operated at, maybe you were less action oriented. I didn't have a full appreciation for those differences on a team. And so that led to some moments of leadership that I'm not proud of because I wasn't demonstrating empathy. I wasn't demonstrating compassion, even though I had Mark in my life at a very early professional age to show me the way. I still hearken back to some of the ways that he approached us. I find myself thinking about his style of leadership, even to this day. I've been out on my own as a business owner for a couple of years, and so I have to lead differently. But I still harken back to those days with Mark and some of the examples that he gave me.
Nice. Sometimes it takes time, right, for us to get into our own rhythm, right? Because that was Mark's rhythm, and it wasn't yours until you felt it and you started to incorporate it into your own leadership style. I don't think great leaders are born. I think great leaders are made. Right? It's by the actions that we take every day that's going to lead out tomorrow's. That is my saying, and I'll say that forever, because whatever I do today is going to reflect how I show up tomorrow, how people perceive me, how I show up, and being present in that moment, especially when somebody really needs you to be the best leader you can be, because sometimes we don't know what they're going through. We don't know what their life at home is. We don't know what their morning was like before they showed up to the office, if we're in an office environment, or if we're in the field or wherever it is that we're at. And so when we assume things, you know what happens, right? When we assume it doesn't come out good for anybody. So it's important for us to really get into our own rhythm, if you will. Let me share one video with you. Take a look.
Yeah.
You followed the rules, tried the restrictions, counted the carbs, the steps, and the failures. You're not lazy, you're exhausted from doing it all without real change. What if the problem isn't you, but the plan? Sifu's Mind-Body Method is a 90-day transformation built on 7 unshakable pillars: mindset, movement, nutrition, hydration, fasting, journaling, and faith. This isn't another shortcut. It's your structure, your strength, your reset. You don't need harder, you need better. Ready to begin? Start today.
I thought I'd share that with you because for me, I'm so passionate about leadership that I even have a show called Unified Leadership with a great friend of mine, Coach Theo Clay. And I see so many leaders who don't take care of their health. I see so many leaders that they focus on the finances and they don't focus on what matters most, which is one, and all the pillars that I shared there. One is faith, and the other one is obviously self. And when we think about chasing money, we're lost somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm so passionate about leadership, because when you get into the rhythm of leadership, you have to look at every aspect. And when you talked about empathy, I'm in a position that the people that work for me, if they're going through something, or if they need time off, I'm like, okay, whatever you need.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like, oh no, you can't. No, one of my employees just came to me the other day and said, hey, I have to. I'm like, okay, I'm good with it. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah, do your thing. Because guess what? Are they going to want to work for me, or they're not going to want to work for me?
Mm-hmm.
If I give them time, if I am that hard place that they have to hit in order to continue their life, are they going to want to be with me? Every time they're going to be afraid to approach me. No, I don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in that. And I should not be the one that puts that fork in the road. They have to choose between coming to work or their family.
Mm-hmm.
For me, family comes first. And if I don't believe that, what kind of a leader am I? If somebody comes to tell me I have a situation with my family, I have to go take care of it. I'm like, oh, no, you have to come to work. So if I say something, I got to mean it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And my philosophy on that is that if you allow people to be human, because being human is experiencing loss and sickness and tragedy and whatever else that we have to face in our real life, so to speak. If you allow people to be human, the results come. Right, because then they become more committed to the cause. They can take care of what they need to take care of, and they can come back full force to whatever their job responsibilities are. If you allow the pivot, I talk a bit about that in my book from a developmental perspective. Right, some leaders will say, "I don't have time to invest in my people. I don't have time for development conversations." And my argument is that a focus on other people's development, particularly if they are reporting to you in a formal role, your time spent has infinite ROI, has infinite return on investment, because not only is that person developing and becoming a better, individual, a better performer because of the time that you're investing in them, they also want to kind of germane to the conversation that you started here. They want to show up to work. They want to do a good job. They want to overperform because they feel valued from being invested in. developmentally. And so whether it's giving people time off for a death in the family, or it's having a 2-hour development conversation at the risk of something else falling by the wayside, I think those, what I perceive to be simple acts, really have maximum impact, not just for the individual, but for the organization, and for the product that whatever they're trying to produce is infinitely better because we're allowing people to be human.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things is I don't allow people to have their cell phones when they're working for me. If they need to make a phone call, I'll use my phones. I'm good with that. But if you're distracted from your duties, then you're distracted and you're not going to be useful to me or anybody else, or even your own growth. So yes, I don't allow people to step over the boundaries that we've set, right? There's certain procedures that we have to follow. And if they come and they say, hey, you know what, can I leave for an hour? Can I leave for 2? Yeah, go. And I don't even say to them, you have to make it up. They automatically do it. I don't get into that conversation of like, you owe me now, because that I think that puts weight on somebody. So if you owe me, all of a sudden it's like, oh no. And for me, when I used to work for corporate, I never showed up on time. I showed up an hour to 2 hours before. People were like shocked I was there. I'm like, what are you doing here? I've been here. And then people would like, you got all this done? I'm like, what else was I going to do? I'm here. And so for me, it's always been about over delivering. And that's why I was able to climb in corporate so fast. And people were looking at me and they're like, oh my God, what are you doing? What are you doing? And it was just about, if I'm going to take my hat off for something, I'm taking my hat off. I'm not really dallying or doing the nonsense. I'm here for a reason. And it's here to, you know what? I'm making you rich because I'm working for you and I'm over delivering. But I'm getting rich in the process as well, because I'm learning to craft my craft. I'm getting better at it. And if I can over deliver for you, I know when I'm on my own, I'm over delivering for myself. And so a lot of people don't see it that way. Leadership. I'm telling you, everybody, you need to pick up this book, right? And he talks so much about leadership. Can you share a couple of stories in your book, if you don't mind?
Yeah, not at all. I have a story in the book, and for those that might be interested in the book, it is a book based on stories, right? So I think it's a pleasurable read. Hopefully, it's helpful and packed with some information that people take value from, and I believe it's an enjoyable read. One of the stories is about a guy named Trent. That's not his real name, but I thought to anonymize him when I wrote it. Trent was a high-performing sales rep on a team that I led, and he had aspirations of being a people leader himself, and certainly had kind of the disposition for it. He was a very caring person. He was dutiful. He was really good at his role. He was a great salesperson. And so I gladly said, yes, I'll invest all the time in the world in that. And as we got into the development process, what we realized was that he probably would benefit from going to a different role that's adjacent to a people leader, to learn more about our business, about how we go to market, learn some of those skills at a leader level without having direct report responsibility. And so I tell a story in the book about the tough conversation that I had to have with him. And unfortunately, it had to be over the phone. We were in a remote sales environment. I wasn't able to get to his area in a timely manner, but he needed to hear this message that we had decided, my boss and I decided, that we would direct his further development towards this role that was adjacent to a people leader role. So it would be a promotion for him, but it would be the stepping stone to a people leader position, ultimately. And as you might imagine, he was very frustrated by that call, and I remember him getting, I could hear the anger in his voice, the disappointment. He probably had some sense that I was kind of walking away from what he and I were trying to develop. And it was a tough conversation. And at one point, and I tell this in the book, at one point in the conversation, he said, "You know what, Matt, I need to let you go. Before I say something that I shouldn't, I need to jump off the call." And I said, absolutely. Let's touch base tomorrow. I think, in a couple days, and let's regroup on this plan. So eventually he came back to the fold. We worked on his development plan for the next 6 months. And I still remember the call that I got from the hiring director telling me that he was poaching Trent from my team for this promotion that he was about to offer. I get goosebumps telling it. It's been 15 years. I get goosebumps telling it. But I felt like I had gotten promoted. It was an amazing experience. And then the call came from Trent once he got and accepted the offer. He said, "You know what, Matt, you remember 6 months ago when we had that conversation? And you told me that we were going to redirect my career this way. I was really mad at you. I was really angry. I was disappointed. And I still get a little choked up talking about it. But he said, now I understand. I get it. And I'm so grateful for it." And fast forward many years later, I've stayed in touch with him, and he's since been promoted to a people leader position, and he's killing it. He's doing a fantastic job by all accounts. I've talked to many people in his sphere of influence, and they love him. He's a great leader, and he learned the business acumen, the emotional intelligence that he needed to learn in this kind of stepping stone position. And I couldn't be more happy for him. He's just a terrific human being and deserves every bit of success that he's achieved.
I enjoyed reading that part. That was really good read. The fact that he said, "I got to get off this call."
Yeah.
In hindsight, and I think he said, if I recall, he didn't want to say the inappropriate thing, right?
Yes.
And in hindsight, that was very intelligent on his part,
Yes.
because he wanted time to reflect on what was presented to him, because he didn't understand your vision or your boss's vision. And so it was time to recoup. And so many people will do the wrong thing, and they don't take time to learn, let me take a breath. Let me read. Let me explore this, and let me give it time to settle, right? A lot of times when you hear somebody say, "I need to sleep on it," they literally need to sleep on it. Right?
Yeah. Trent needed to sleep many times on it before he finally came around to it. But it was all worth it. And I was fortunate in my corporate career. I had a couple of dozen of those kinds of experiences where somebody that I had invested in achieved things maybe they didn't even see in their future, or didn't see that quickly. So that was one of the more dramatic ones, but I am ever grateful for working for a company that allowed me to be that type of leader for my people, and then provided me the resources to do it. Right, that's not a one-man or one-person job. You really have to be supported by a culture that values people development.
Absolutely. Matt, what inspired you to actually write the book? Because you could have kept all these stories to yourself.
I always felt like I had, the vast majority of my career, I was a middle manager, a frontline manager of a team of individual contributors. And so I felt like I had maybe some unique stories. And we used to joke, my peers and I, my bosses and I, would joke about, man, we've got so many stories we could put into a book. And many of those were kind of funny or shocking stories, about people leadership or working within a hierarchy. And so I felt like I always had, kind of a collection of stories to share. I worked with the right publisher on this, who really helped me through the writing process. And what my book became was more of a love letter to people leadership. in a way that I didn't foresee. And so the stories became supportive of that narrative, as opposed to Matt just talking about his work career, right? Nobody would want to read. My mom might want to read that book, but nobody else wants to read that book. You want to read a book and get value out of it. You want to enjoy it, but you want to get value out of it. And I'm really proud that my publishing partner, Niche Publishing, really strategized with me and helped me put together a final product that honors kind of my desire to share stories, and also can be informative and hopefully persuasive, to challenge people that don't think they want to lead people, right? Like they don't want to babysit adults, or they don't want to go to a bunch of meetings or push paper, which is what sometimes leadership is seen as. They just want to be the subject matter expert. They just want to be the technical expert in their field, because that's what's gotten them to this place in their career, right? Like that's how they've established their success. This book is really kind of challenging that narrative to say, actually, investing into other people professionally, in an official way by being a people leader, can be fulfilling in maybe ways that you haven't explored. And that's my challenge to everybody that reads the book. If they aren't already oriented towards valuing people leadership, give it a try. And hopefully there's some habits in there that they can iterate, that would give them some feedback to suggest that, Matt might be onto something here.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talked about babysitting adults, that cracked me up when I read that up, because a lot of people feel that way, right? And it's not really about that, because everybody's an individual. Everybody's going to see things differently. And when we become a true leader, we can help them understand and really shine in their brilliance, if you will, right? And sometimes when we think we have to babysit, is because we're not letting them shine.
That's absolutely right.
Don't get me wrong. I'm sure you've seen in your journey, people have temper tantrums like a 2-year-old.
Yes.
I've seen it plenty of times, and I'm like, what is going on with you? Right? I had a boss who, oh my God, he would throw things.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, throw them. I mean, slam things. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Wow.
And this guy would actually even curse at me. And I would be calm, cool, collected. And I never responded back or anything like that, because he had a skill I wanted. So I was willing to go through all that nonsense because he was so well skilled that I was like, it doesn't matter what you say. You can curse me out. You can throw things. Just give me what you got. And so he kind of eventually started respecting me, because everyone else who had been in my position would fight him back.
Oh, yeah.
And I was one that, I'm like, bring it. What else you got? So for me, it was always important to, people are going to act the way they're going to act. And sometimes when you show who you are as a human being, that you respect people. I respected him for his skill. The guy was beyond skilled. And so I did respect that. And I think he appreciated that, because I would ask questions on the skills. And whenever he went off like a lunatic, I didn't say anything. I didn't say, what's wrong with you? I didn't say anything like that, because he was my boss. I just let him be. And so for me, it taught me the lesson of, hey, you know what? I don't know what he's going through. Later on, I found out he was going through a lot of financial difficulties. But maybe that's why he was throwing things. That's why he was cursing. And it wasn't my place to put him in his place. He was my boss after all. And I know if I would have tried putting him in his place, I would have been fired. But I didn't want to get fired because I wanted the skill. So
it's a shame you had to go through all that, though.
It's a catch-22. But I'm thankful. I'm thankful for the experience, and I don't go back and like, oh, I hated that time. No, I learned so much. I learned first how to not be reactive like that, right? I already knew that anyway, but I said it just reinforced it. And then the other one is I learned a skill. So I'm so grateful for it.
Mm-hmm. It's great that you have that outlook on it, and it's a shame that you had to go through all that just to achieve, what you achieved. But yeah, you're right. Taking a lesson from that. Author Brene Brown talks about it in one of her books, where she felt slighted by somebody, and she goes through 100 pages of kind of detailing of how she's wrestling with this, and ultimately she says, my therapist says that people are just trying to do the best they can, and she challenges her husband, and she's like, do you really believe that? And he said, I'm not sure if I do, but if I think that, I know my life is better. And or something to that effect, right? I'm paraphrasing, but this idea to give grace whenever possible, because you just don't know what's going on in people's lives. And oftentimes it's true for 99% of us. We're just trying to show up the best we can. And sometimes our best isn't good enough for other people. And sometimes our best is damaging, right? And also it's still just some version of our best. And so if we can kind of take that stance on things, I think our lives get a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, I got to tell you, what a pleasure. And I'm so happy that you said yes to coming on the show. Thank you again for sending me a signed copy of the book. And it goes to my library of books I've read and books I'm going to reread, right? Because and you talked about the lessons or the ideas or the concepts, even though you may know them, it doesn't hurt to reread something that you already know, because it just reinforces a different aspect of it. So thank you for writing the book. Thank you for sharing the book with me. And everybody, do me a favor. Matt, tell them how they can get your book.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to my website, coachingforclarityllc.com. MattDickersonValued.com is another place you can find me. If you type in Matt Dickerson Valued into LinkedIn, you can find me that way. And the book's available everywhere books are sold, particularly on Amazon. So I'm proud to say that if you start typing in Matthew Dickerson, my book pops up pretty quickly. It's definitely been an honor to have this conversation with you. I've had so much fun kind of reliving old memories and talking through some philosophy with you. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Matt, once again for being on the show. I want to just share with everybody who either watches it live or if you watch this on the replay, someone you know may need to hear the messages that were delivered today. So do yourself a favor and help somebody out. Share the show. Thank you, everybody. God bless. Matt, stay on for a minute. And everybody, have a blessed day. Take care.
Thank you.